We're ready for the study session.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Welcome. Austin Greer, Community Development Director, will introduce our first item.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. How are you guys doing? Super excited to get Sheila Shockey and Shelby Ferguson with Shockey Consulting in front of you guys tonight. As you guys know, we've been working on the comprehensive plan for a while now, and with COVID happening last year, it didn't quite move as quickly as we had liked. But we've conducted interviews, and Shockey Consulting is more than qualified. They're excellent people, and we're really excited for it to get started. So they're way better speakers than me. And so I'm going to turn it over to them and let them introduce themselves.
Hi there, I'm Sheila Shockey with Shockey Consulting, and we're very happy to be here with you tonight and talk about the comprehensive plan update and some of the work that we will be doing with you. And I wanted to introduce Shelby Ferguson. She is one of our main planners on this project, and you'll be seeing a lot of both of us during this process. So with that, I'm going the opposite direction. There we go. A little bit about us. We are located in downtown Overland Park. We also have an office in the St. Louis region, Kirkwood, if you're familiar with St. Louis. We also have an office in there downtown as well. So we're very supportive of downtown efforts and urban planners. We do a lot of community engagement. Some of the other things we do is we work with city and county government in doing management consulting, primarily council retreats or staff retreats, improving processes and those sorts of things. And so those three services together sometimes are done in coordination on different projects that we work with that are long-term and short-term planning, as well as we really specialize in the region in community engagement. And we're started in 1998, so this is our 23rd year in business. Kind of, you know, I know you don't think I look that old, but I am that old. That I started when I was 12, so I'm just kidding. But prior to that, my background's in city management. We have kind of a variety of different people that work for us: communication specialists, urban planners, and a lot of folks that have backgrounds in public works management and city planning or city management. And so this is just a list of some of the comprehensive planning projects that we've worked for, or community-wide plans. And so we primarily work in Kansas and Missouri. We have started working more in Illinois on the St. Louis side, and then also we just started working as well up in the Chicago area. But we're very Kansas, Missouri, Midwest focused. And we like to do that because we live in those communities, and we want to try to make sure that those communities thrive into the future. So that's really part of our ethos. The team that will be working on your project listed here, Shelby Ferguson, she's a project manager for this project, and she's an urban planner, and we'll have her kind of talk about the approach that we plan to use. Tyler Waldorf is an urban designer and architect. Taylor Vandevelde, she and April Snee are both urban planners. And then we also have with us engineers that we work with and landscape architects. So Andrew Robertson is from CFS, which is Cook, Flatt, and Strobel, and they team with us periodically to do transportation work. And so they'll be doing a lot of work, and I think he's worked with you all before. And then Jim Schuschler is a land planner, and he'll be helping some of the land use analysis that we do. And then two other folks, Maddie Hughes, she's also a urban planner, and then Carla Dodds is an environmental planner. She's very involved in looking at sustainability, green space, open space. How do you kind of use that in your community to provide multiple benefits, including stormwater management and also just open space and parks. And with that, I'm going to have Shelby kind of go through the different phases of the project and talk to you a little bit about our approach and how we like to do our work, and we like to make it fun. So we want to make sure that we involve the right people in the project, and especially involve the City Council and Planning Commission to make sure that we get that long-range vision for the future of the community.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having us.
As Sheila said, I'm Shelby Ferguson, project manager, urban planner, and Northland resident as well. So that's one thing that we spoke about a lot in depth in our interview, is actually that I'm from the Northland, born and raised, and so I actually grew up just outside of Gladstone. So I'm very excited to be here this evening and be working on this project, as I feel very close, even though I wasn't a full resident all my life of Gladstone. I'm very invested in it since I was much younger. So excited to be here. So as Sheila said, I'll talk to you a little bit just about our approach. So with our comprehensive plan updates, typically we take a 4-phased approach. As you'll see up there, we have the discovery phase, and then we go into engaging, and then the plan, and then adopting and implementation of that. And so what that really looks at, what we look at in each of those phases is the discovery. We really dive in, get an understanding of establishing what that baseline is of your community, what your existing conditions are, really doing our gathering piece, really understanding what your community is, past plans, all the great work that you already have put in to get where you are now. And then so once we compile all that and we have a good understanding of your community, we really start to get out there and engage with your residents, and really start to put together what that vision is, what that vision for 2040 and beyond will be. And we do that through different engagement methods, which I'll get into here in a little bit. But we just really want to make sure that we're getting that overall cross-section of your community input as well. And so we do that through some mapping pieces as well, just to make sure that we are fully getting everyone involved as much as possible, and making sure that we're reaching those hard-to-reach stakeholders at times as well. And then so the plan phase is generally follows that engagement piece. We do work on that, though, from the beginning, just kind of getting that framework put together of what the plan will include. But really, once we've started, we've gathered everything, we have the data, we've engaged, we've got that community vision, we really understand what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities are. We really start to put together the plan piece of it and that framework, and identify what policies and strategies, in addition to the goals and objectives that we have for your long-term goals for your community. And then following that, we take all of that, we bring it back to you all and look at the adoption and implementation piece of it. And so we start to put together short-term and long-term goals and time ranges on all of that, just so that you do have a full implementation plan by the end of it, as well as a full plan that can be adopted and then implemented through you all and through your city staff. So as I mentioned, this kind of just highlights that roadmap that I just mentioned of those phases. We really get out there and we talk with your community, get that vision, and understanding of what that overall community vision is and statement, and where they want to go in the future. And then as we progress through that, we identify those goals, those strategies, and then identify any land use policies or any performance measures, so those short-term and long-term pieces of that implementation plan, so that we can make sure that you have a way to track the progress of your plan over the years to come. So then just a little more detail about each of those phases. So in phase 1, we really look at developing that story for Gladstone. So what that looks at for getting that baseline, what we'll do is we'll get all of your existing plans, review those, get an understanding of where the recommendations are within those pieces, and then put together a current snapshot is what we call it, and it's an infographic document that has all of the data that we can compile based on topic areas, so demographics, housing, health, transportation, and so on, and really make sure that we have all of that laid out, and we use those graphics throughout the plan and then throughout the engagement period as well. So it's just kind of quick snippets that allow us to show the community where you're at currently and where they can go. And then we really hone in on what the critical questions are that we want the plan to answer. So we really sit down with you all, with the Planning Commission, and staff, and figure out what critical questions, what topic areas are most important to you all that you want to have answered by the plan. We identify those early on, and then we work with those throughout the planning process to make sure we come back to those. Are we answering those? Is the plan really hitting on what is needed for Gladstone to be what it wants to be in the future? So then we move into that phase 2 where we want to build consensus through engagement. We'll do that with elected official and city leadership workshops, working with an advisory committee who will meet 4 times, and they'll really be the decision makers and help us guide us through that decision making throughout the process. We'll ask that they're a full cross-section of your community in stakeholders, so we'll want to have board members, but as well as residents on there, just so that we can make sure that we're getting multiple viewpoints to the table and having those discussions right there with us. And then we'll engage the general public as well, and we can do that through pop-up events, community workshops, online. Things with the last year with COVID, we've really been able to figure out how we can engage people online, but still also we understand that online's not for everyone, so we find ways that we can still do more tangible hands-on mapping workshop type of things, but still at a distance or in small group activities as well. So then, as I mentioned, these are just a few of those engagement methods that we would consider doing. So the workshops, those would be with you all, and then Planning Commission and city staff, just to make sure that we're getting those touch points with you all, that we're having those conversations, we're bringing back to you what the advisory committee has been discussing, and what decisions that they feel that the community wants and needs, and making sure that we bring all of that together by then taking everything that we're recommending out to the public and doing a community vision workshop. Again, that really helps us understand what the general public wants as well. And then other things, as I mentioned, doing online surveys, having an engagement platform that can be online, doing stakeholder-focused interviews, and then as well as pop-up events. That allows us to just kind of pop up, you do a lot of great events in Oak Grove Park. We can just pop up there, have a small little stand that, we have informational sheets about the project, maps, or a survey, and we can engage people right then and there, but it's not a full sit down at a table in a workshop setting for hours on end. It's more in passing and as they would like to do at their own pace. So then we get into phase 3. Once we've got all that information, we really look at crafting that plan, and we'll do that once we've got all of the information from our baseline and from the community. We really start to dive into the land use and the market analysis. We use mapping to, again, make sure that we're getting that full cross-section of your community, but also we have a really great way of using GIS and creating maps that really help us understand those existing conditions and mapping what future land use scenarios you can have as well. And so then we carry all that together and we put it into that draft plan that'll have a framework based on your current comp plan, but also just making sure that we're hitting on all points. It'll have focus areas of neighborhoods and housing, transportation and mobility, economic development, resilient economy, environmental aspects, and then the land use and the community design aspect and appearance. So we make sure that we hit on all topics throughout the entire planning process as well, so that those critical questions would be within, that I spoke about, would be within each of those areas, and we'll hit on that and make sure that each of those topic areas we're getting what your community needs and wants. So then the land use and market analysis, this is to identify the local and regional market. We'll identify any land use conflicts, issues, challenges, and then opportunity areas. And then we'll also develop a future land use map as part of the planning process. And then we can do this all with our mapping. As I mentioned, we have people on staff who have great GIS skills, so we can produce maps similar to what is on the screen, and this really helps us look at the existing conditions, future scenarios, and that future land use map as well. And then I'm going to hand this back over to Sheila just to kind of talk about the final framework.
So the process really results in a plan that you can implement as a city council, a plan that the Planning Commission can use to help make recommendations and decisions on land use. And the way that we do that is we establish goals that are measurable. So we want to make sure that we know where you are today, we have that vision, and we set those goals that are attainable that you can meet in the future. And that allows you the opportunity to track over time, are we going in the right direction? So one of the things that will help you identify might be your housing mix. You know, what types of housing do you need in the future to serve the community that you have today, but also the potential that you might have in the future. And we use a lot of what we call strategic foresight, where we're looking at trends and we're thinking about that in the future, how your demographics may shift, and what are the needs of people in the future in terms of transportation, housing, and whatnot. And so all of those goals and objectives will all be measurable, and you can put that on your website and identify those to say, where are we today, where are we headed, and you can track your progress over time. So the plan is something that is not just static, it's something that can be live, interactive, and you can put it on your website so that you can continually update your progress. And we find that that works really well for kind of your short-term planning as city council members, where maybe you do a year, 2-year to 5-year planning, but also you have that long-range view in mind as you're doing that. So, so that's kind of the approach that we like to take. And then we know that a lot of the implementation of your comprehensive plan will not just be the responsibility of the city. You may have partners such as the school districts, or you may have a library system, other folks that provide those community amenities, those community services. They're necessary to work together, and so we put together this implementation matrix working with you to identify who does what by when, and what groups are kind of taking the lead on that. And so the way we look at city government's role is not just providing services, but it's also influencing different activities within your community. And so this implementation framework can really help you think about, is that something we provide, we influence? It's all based on what citizens need for a highly viable and attractive community. And so the adoption phase, we really work throughout the project to make sure that by the time you get the final plan to review it, it's like, yes, this is what we've been talking about. The public hearing, we have people who participated that come to the public hearing in support of it, and that you'll be able to adopt it in a pretty smooth process because we've done all the engagement up front and people were very well informed throughout, and that's really our goal as consultants. And then the final plan, as I said, it can be interactive web-based plan. We like to make sure your plan document's not 485 pages, but it's something that you can easily pick up as a decision maker, as a city staff person, and you can understand the direction the community wants to go and use that to make decisions, because it has plain language, it also has great graphics, and it's visually appealing and done in a concise way that really is something that you can use on a day-to-day basis in your process. The budget that we've developed is $120,000 is kind of the total budget that we have. This is pretty typical for what a comp plan would cost for the size city and community and type of things that your staff is recommending in terms of the scope of work. Happy to answer questions on that. Our comprehensive plans that we've done in the past, we've done them for small cities of 500 people. We've done them for cities the size of Lee Summit. Their budgets ranged from 700 or 75,000 all the way up to 500,000. And so, depending on the kinds of tasks and time frame that we'll be working in, is kind of that range. This is a pretty typical for a suburban community of your size, and even a little bit smaller and larger, kind of in that range that you're in as well. And so you can see the bulk of the money really happens in the phase of crafting the plan and building consensus. Those are kind of the two things that we spend a lot of time on and a lot of effort. And that makes that final adoption process go very smoothly because so many people were involved in the process and provide their input into the recommendations. And so with that, I'm happy to answer questions. Turn it back over to Austin. You can, I don't know if you want to facilitate that, but thank you so much. We're really looking forward to, hopefully you adopt our contract tonight, or we can work through issues with that if needed, and we really were excited to work with your community. So, here you go.
I will just add one more thing. The contract probably comes in 2 weeks, the August 23rd meeting.
Questions, comments?
Sheila, it was tiny on the screen. I wasn't sure that I read it all. Can you give us a sense of timing?
Yes.
Oh, the time frame?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the time frame, I'll let Shelby kind of address what her schedule is for the project.
Sure. So we typically run everything at about a 12-month schedule. We can lengthen it or shorten it as needed, but typically we don't like to run anything longer than the 12-month period, just due to timing, exhaustion, and also just making sure that we're hitting everything and it's staying fresh in everyone's mind. As for this specifically, we do have scoped that if adopted, the contract here in 2 weeks, we would hit that discovery phase following that. We're fully prepared and ready to start at the end of August. And so we would run about August to mid of next year, summer or so.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Regarding the choosing of folks to participate, in the study and whatnot, how are you going to choose those people that are on our boards and commissions currently and that are of general public?
Right, so typically we work with your city staff and we have kind of a matrix that we put together and we say this is kind of your demographic of your community. We want to make sure that, as Shelby said, kind of geographically you select people from different parts of your community, but also it's representative of your different interests in the community as well as demographics in your community. And so we kind of have this little matrix spreadsheet thing, and we have different people, basically a lot of times city council members and staff will recommend people. We'll kind of look at your boards, but it's kind of a collaborative process that we would go through to help you kind of put that advisory committee together. And then also, what we do is a very similar thing with just the general public. We continue to engage until we hit all geographic areas of your community, and also we hit your demographics. And so we want to make sure that not just your demographics today, but what we're projecting into the future, we are really being representative of potential for changes in your community, and that you're well represented in terms of feedback. Ultimately, the decision the adoption is through the Planning Commission and City Council. So the recommendations that are made with the advisory committee, those are recommendations to you. But we want people that have a sense of things that are happening in the community. People who maybe have just moved to the community and lived elsewhere, they're also very good to participate. And then different age groups is really important as well. So you want to make sure that you have young people and as well as old on your communities, people who have lived here a long time and people who just moved here. So, but that's kind of a very important part of the process, because it gives legitimacy to the engagement process if you really select well, Okay.
No.
Yeah, just a comment. Some of us have been around for so long that they worked on the last comprehensive plan 10 years ago on Planning Commission. And that was, when you do your discovery phase, I think you'll find it was a very good and helpful document. I'm anxious to see how you can update and improve upon it, particularly with things like some of the mapping and the graphics, because that is all very helpful to us. And I was also thinking, since we developed that last planning study, how many things, or that last comprehensive plan, how many things have been done in the last 10 years that will supplement that. And, you know, we've had all of those North Oak studies that also reviewed all prior North Oak studies, so that's all something that's happened in the last 10 years. We've done our own study of housing stock and housing needs, you know, just a little bit of work but that also obviously plays into it, and then a number of master plans. You know, we do a lot of master plans here, and all of that, there are developments over the last 10 years, so I'm excited to see what the final work and the graphics, and we know people use them. You know, new people come into town, look at them, developers look at them and are impressed by them, so it's worth it more than just as a planning exercise, so best of luck to you.
I can tell you a little bit about our existing plans process we have developed. Really helps us organize ourselves. We collect all of the existing plans, not just from your community, but there's a lot of Northland plans, as you said, and there's KCATA and all these other agencies that have a lot of planning work that impact you. So what we do is we set up a database. We develop, or we pull out all of the recommendations in those plans, so we can sort those by location and as well as topic area, and then we review that with the city staff to say, are these implemented, relevant, do we want to kind of bring that back to, you know, integrate that into your overall comprehensive plan, so it's truly a comprehensive document that considers the good planning of the past, and you bring that forward into that. And in terms of kind of documentation for existing conditions, you'll be surprised at how few pages there'll be for that, because it'll be graphics. The majority of it will be maps and infographics, and then we sprinkle those throughout your final document so that when you're kind of talking about, here's where we are today, it's a short paragraph or two, and it has those graphics, or it might have a map that shows existing conditions, and then where you want to be in the future in terms of a target. So, you know, I've been doing planning since 1995. So, no, 92. It's about 92. And so in the past, we would always do like a big document of all of our existing conditions. And a lot of the plans that are developed are really moving away from that, because you want to have it to be very consumable by people who move here, or developers and people that are making decisions, such as yourself. So it'll be a little bit different than probably what you've had in the past, but the same information will be there. Yeah.
Sheila, over the year, we have many presentations that are given to us. And I'm going to start out with a compliment, then I'm going to ask a question. Your presentation was excellent. It reflects you're very knowledgeable. It was well organized, good communication skills. So Austin and Justin, I think you've done a good job in the vetting process. Here's the question, and it goes into that engagement piece and trying to build consensus. I have a question about how do you communicate with the community and the residents to get their input as you move forward? Are you thinking city website? Are you doing email? I'd like to see timely communication where people can get it on their calendar and then be there to meet with you, or however it's going to be done. Can you talk a little bit more how you connect with the residents?
Yeah, so that's my favorite part of the planning process, is to talk to people about what they would like to see for the future of their community. And we don't really, we've gotten really good about how we pose questions. I think that's really important. We're not asking people about, you know, where are your sidewalks that need to be repaired and that kind of thing. We're not kind of asking at that level. Now, some people talk at that level, so you have to kind of probe and get a little bit more. What would you like to see? a complete sidewalk system in your community, or what would you like to see in terms of those different topics? And so what we do is, as Shelby said, we have these critical questions that we have everybody kind of sign off on that's working on the project. And then we form questions around those, and we deliver those to the community in multiple different methods. And so some people like to take a short online quiz. Some people like to talk to me at the swimming pool. Some people like to go to the park and, oh, Shelby's here today at the park, ask a few questions, that sort of thing. And we usually promote where we're going to be ahead of time using the way that you communicate to your community already with your electronic and other written materials that you provide to your community. But we plug into those communication tools. We also sometimes put up little signs that tell people, hey, this is going to happen on a certain day. We use a lot of marketing techniques, and as I said before, we have communication specialists that are in our organization, and the thing that they really bring is that marketing approach to engagement. It doesn't do any good to engage people if you can't get them to either where you're going to be or you can't get to where they're going to be. So we really work in a kind of a detailed marketing or engagement strategy, and then we ask questions that people can answer. And those are usually based on their values of what they think a community should be, and not kind of technical questions. We don't kind of get into that kind of detail. And as we go, we update the questions we ask all the way through. So you can participate multiple times in the process. So we may, one month we may talk a lot about housing, the next month we might talk about transportation. And one of the things we find is that we have those frequent flyers of people who are going to participate all the way through because they have interest in all those different topics. But also we have people who are just interested in certain topics, and that's how and when they engage. So like one of the things we do when we talk about the future that's fun is we ask people to say, in 20 years from now, where do you think you're going to be? What do you want your community to be? And we even ask little kids this, and they are awesome, the way that they talk about it. We ask retired people, and sometimes they say, or people that are in their 80s and 90s, well, I'm not going to be here. Well, what do you want for people that are living here in your family and that kind of thing? And so we ask questions that any age, any type of person can participate in, and we get a sense of where they want the community to go. Your advisory committee is going to get into a little bit more technical kind of questions because we're going to educate them along the way. They're going to educate us about your community. We're going to educate them about different best practices in terms of future trends, but also how communities have dealt with those across the world. And they'll be a little bit more detailed type of questions. But most of them are kind of visionary and how do you want your community to feel like in the next 20 years? So I hope that answers your question. It's like multiple channels we use a marketing strategy, and we ask people questions they can answer because they're value-based. So
I really don't think any of us here would want to hear our residents say, well, we didn't even know about this.
Yeah, oh, for
and we
sure,
really
yeah.
don't have a newspaper here unless you
Yeah.
buy a copy out of Hy-Vee or something.
Right.
We have our city website that our residents tap into. But whatever your marketing plan is, I'd sure like to see a good response on it.
Sure. So you mentioned Hy-Vee. We go to grocery stores sometimes and stand there on a Saturday.
It's not a bad idea.
Probably one of the best
We kind of
ideas.
think outside the box a little bit on how do you reach residents rather than just the regular channels.
Community centered, they have a very active
Yeah.
attendance there.
We've done swimming pools, concerts in the park,
Oh my gosh.
all kinds of things like that.
This was going to be in one of my comments this evening. I'll go ahead and say it. I'm very, very amazed, surprised with the hot weather, the turnout at Linden Square for the concert series. You've got hundreds of people there that probably are Gladstonians or Northlands.
And sometimes we ask people who don't live in Gladstone, what do you think? What would you like to see here? Because obviously they're visiting and or business owners and that sort of thing. So we really do a marketing approach to it and get way outside of what normally a city would use for just general communications.
Well, thank you. It's very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor, as Mr. Greer said, the contract for their services will be on your next agenda, 2 weeks. And now we're Pleased to have Director Accurso present some financing details on the radio system that Assistant City Manager Bear discussed 2 weeks ago.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So we're going to discuss the radio financing plan. 2 weeks ago, Assistant City Manager Bear discussed some of the reasoning, what's going on with the radio plan, or with the police radios, current radios that we're using. So just kind of recap some of the information from the previous study session. Stuff we do know, current radios were purchased back in 2011, so most of the radios are all 10, 11 years old. Another thing, back then the COP was for $1.6 million project. That was financed over 12 years. So 12 years for radios, that's pushing useful life for any kind of electronics. Debt services paid from PSST, that was kind of one of the things that was on the ballot, was PSST, I believe it was 2010, was to provide for 6 officers support and to pay for the radio system. So debt service was paid, or is paid, out of PSST. Something else we know, January 1st, 2022, Kansas City will change the encryption from DES to AES, which is just a more secure encryption. Additional information, we could re-encrypt the current radios we have. Again, they're 10 years old. They may last one day, they may last 10 more years. Bottom line, we're probably going to have to purchase new ones here in the next few years. Again, the radios are 10 years old and close to the end of their useful life. So staff's recommending purchase new equipment. The total cost of the project is about $850,000. $680,000 will go to purchase about 150 radios. $100,000 will go to upgrade the dispatch consoles. $50,000 will go to purchase a voice recorder for dispatch. $50,000 for project contingency, anything we may need, additional microphones, chargers, things like that, programming, anything. And then $30,000 is what they're proposing as a trade-in value for the existing radios. So as far as the financing goes, so this is the current structure we have with the 2011 COP. We still have 2 more years on payments going into fiscal year 2023. So as you can see, debt service for the fiscal year is about $200,000 a year. So what we wanted to try to mimic that, try to keep things the same for the new financing plan. So what we were able to do is I kind of sat down and worked with things a little bit. Thought in my head was, how about maybe we can do interest only for 2 years and then start principal payments after that, and we would have the radios paid off in 7 years, keeping the debt service about the same level. So there'll be minimal impact for the first 2 years, debt service about $10,000 to $15,000. So it should not impact the PSST fund very much. So we kind of call this debt wrapping. We're wrapping one around another. I do want to say thank you to Commerce Bank and Clayton Holdings. They went way beyond what I thought they would do. Our last debt issue that we did recently, the actual average or the actual interest expense on that was 2%. This is actually below that. So absolutely phenomenal request, and they greatly accepted that. So that was awesome. So what's next? So we've designed the debt schedule. Commerce Bank has basically accepted it. As long as we move forward by September 3rd, I believe it is. I'm working with Rick McConnell right now at Armstrong Teasdale. He's going to approve all the documents, get everything together. Of course, we're here right now discussing the financing plan, and we are planning to have an ordinance for the lease purchase on the 23rd agenda, as well as the resolution for the purchase of the radios on the 23rd. Other than that, any questions, comments, or feedback from everybody?
Dominic, I remembered that we were talking about the consoles the last time and that Kansas City paid for some piece of that. Now I'm confused because we have $100,000 in here for upgrading of the consoles. So what part does Kansas City play in that? Did I misunderstand that from the last time? Thank you.
They actually, the actual radio itself, the dispatch screen and the computer itself that the radio all ties into, what we're talking about with the dispatch consoles is the actual physical console that raises and lowers, that has all the controls on it, but it's not the radio itself.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So Kansas City does.
Kansas City does. They'll take care of the dispatch radios, the radios that the dispatchers actually use, but the consoles, when we talk about consoles, we're actually talking about the actual workstation that the radio sits in.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Regarding the financing, why are we going to go interest only for the first 2 years? When we already had this in our budget, we already had that debt still. So why would we postpone that?
Well, right now we have 2 years of existing debt we still have to pay off. So we still have $200,000 budgeted for 2022, 2023. So basically we want to just keep the pay structure the same, keep it in the same restricted funds, which this will allow us to minimally impact for the next 2 years. So I believe the first year, my eyes are getting worse the longer I go without my glasses. So the first year debt service will be $11,000. The second year it'll be $14,000. Then after that it kicks up to $100,000, $195,000, which is back to about the same levels as it was for the previous 10 years.
I understand now. So we're making that, okay, so basically you're making the regular payment plus that interest on top of that.
Right, and then we'll have the new equipment and everything should be great from there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bill? No. Dominic, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you. That concludes our study sessions for tonight.
Thank you. Council members, move right on into city
please.
council meeting. All right. Good evening, Mike. Good to see you. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Monday, August 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the Gladstone City Council. I'll call this meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Spallo?
Here?
Councilman Frisbee?
Here.
Councilmember Moore?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Garnes?
Here.
Mayor Mallons?
Here. We have a quorum. This time I'd like to ask you to please stand and join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4 is the approval of the agenda. Is there anyone on the City Council who wishes to make a change to tonight's agenda? Okay. Seeing none, the agenda then will stand as it's been presented. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 26, 2021 closed City Council meeting.
Mayor Mallons.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I move to approve the July 26, 2021 closed City Council meeting minutes.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the July 26, 2021 closed City Council meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The minutes are hereby approved. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 26, 2021 regular City Council meeting.
Mayor Mallons.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I move to approve the July 26, 2021 regular City Council meeting minutes.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the July 26, 2021 regular City Council meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The minutes are hereby approved. Now we move into communications from our audience. Members of the public are invited to speak about any topic that's not on tonight's agenda. When speaking, please step up to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, and please try to limit your comments to 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you. The eighth item on the agenda is communications from our City Council. We'll begin with Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think we have a pattern that we're following here because I would like to wish happy birthday this evening to Mayor Pro Tem Garna. Happy birthday. Thank you. Welcome. I also wanted to express my kudos to Eugene Suter and his team for all their efforts in planting and cultivating and picking the delicious sweet corn that so many of us have enjoyed this year. Last Saturday was the last batch of corn picked, but it was the beginning of the You Pick sunflowers. And I took advantage of that, and it was so fun. The sunflowers are so beautiful. It's a super happy place to go, so I really would encourage everybody to take advantage of that. They're going to be doing that for the next few Saturdays. You can buy a bouquet for $10 or $25, and you can pick as many sunflowers as you can, and they'll make your house look beautiful. So it's a great thing to do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jane. Councilmember Spallo.
I have no comments, Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Frisbee.
No comments from me.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing, Mayor. I'm assuming you're going to talk about the exciting groundbreaking of the fire station
expansion.
expansion.
Yes,
so I'm not going to
definitely.
steal that from you. I've got nothing. Thank you.
We did. We had a wonderful groundbreaking for Fire Station number 2. City Manager, thank you for the weather. It was a great morning. We had all of our firefighters, our EMTs that were there, people from the media, people from the community, the construction managers, engineers, the architects. It was a good way to start the use of the sales tax that was approved by over 80% of the voters here in Gladstone. And you've already mentioned a happy birthday, but I wish you could see the notes up here of the council members. Somebody seated to my left here, it must be a font 3 on the agenda, and I have no idea how in the world you're reading this. May I see that, please? We ought to probably put this into the public record.
My printer was printing on a lower scale.
Obviously. I don't have any other comments. City Manager Wingerson.
I guess to start with, congratulations to Councilmember Moore on her vision. That's phenomenal. 2 things. This week and this month, the Missouri Bicentennial is being honored. There's a whole host of events across the state, and all those events can be found at Missouri2021.org. So take a chance to check that out. It's a neat website, an important day and month in our state's history. There's this thing out there called COVID. You might have heard of it at some point over the last 18 or 20 months. Just wanted to share a few statistics for the council and the public. About 42% of Clay County residents are vaccinated. About 70% of residents 65 and over are vaccinated, so that's a very good number. About 50% of those 45 to 64 are vaccinated, so that's also a pretty good number. About 70% of your city employees are either vaccinated or have the antibodies from having the COVID virus, so that's a very outstanding number and a high-risk occupation that we're in, interfacing with the public routinely. We're doing a pretty good job, but I just want to encourage anyone who's thinking about getting a vaccine to get up off the couch and go do that, and that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the first reading of Bill number 21-25. It's an ordinance annexing into the city of Gladstone approximately 0.62 acres, generally located at 3000 Northeast 76th Street, upon the detachment of said property by the city of Kansas City, Missouri.
Mayor Mallon.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to place Bill number 21-25 on its first reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to place Bill number 21-25 on its first reading. Any discussion? All those in favor of placing Bill number 21-25 on its first reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading, Bill number 21-25, an ordinance annexing into the city of Gladstone approximately 0.62 acres, generally located at 3000 Northeast 76th Street, upon the detachment of said property by the city of Kansas City, Missouri.
Mayor Mellon.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to accept the first reading of Bill number 21-25, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of Bill number 21-25, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading, Bill number 21-25, an ordinance annexing into the City of Gladstone approximately 0.62 acres generally located at 3000 Northeast 76th Street upon the detachment of said property by the City of Kansas City, Missouri.
Mayor Mellon.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to accept the second reading of Bill number 21-25 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.563.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 21-25 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.563. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spallo.
Aye.
Councilman Frisbee.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Garnis.
Aye.
Mayor Mallums.
Aye. Bill number 21-25 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.563. The next item on the agenda is the first reading of Bill number 21-26. It's an ordinance amending Title IX of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gladstone, Missouri by repealing the Chapter 2400 Special Event Regulations and enacting in lieu thereof and of a new Chapter 2400 Special Event Regulations.
Mayor Mellon.
Councilmember Spallo.
I move to place Bill number 21-26 on its first reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to place Bill number 21-26 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor of placing Bill number 21-26 on its first reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading, Bill number 21-26, an ordinance amending Title IX of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gladstone, Missouri by repealing Chapter 2400 Special Event Regulations and enacting in lieu thereof a new Chapter 2400 Special Event Regulations.
Mayor Mellon.
Councilmember Spallo.
I move to accept the first reading of Bill number 21-26, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of Bill number 21-26, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading, Bill number 21-26, an ordinance amending Title IX of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gladstone, Missouri by repealing Chapter 2400 Special Event Regulations and enacting in lieu thereof a new Chapter 2400 Special Event Regulations.
Mayor Mellon.
Councilmember Spallo.
I move to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 21-26 and enact it as ordinance number 4.564.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 21-26 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.564. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spallo.
Aye.
Councilman Frisbee.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Garnis.
Aye.
Mayor Mallums.
Aye. Bill number 21-26 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.564. The 12th item on the agenda is to consider a special event permit from Lift Church, Kansas City, Worship and Fellowship Evening, 602 Northeast 70th Street, Linden Square, on Sunday, August 22nd, 2021, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. with a setup of 12 p.m. May I receive a motion?
Mayor Mellon.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to accept this special event permit from Lift Church.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the special event permit. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the special event for the Lift Church KC Worship and Fellowship Evening signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The special event permit is approved. Is there any other business for this evening's City Council? We stand adjourned.